first, I just want to thank everybody for coming. You know, this is, you know, for graduation. So one more video, so we'll just meet one more time, probably in the next week or so. And we're just going to be talking about, I met with Ms. Ravrusha, I don't know if I've told y'all, and some of the things that she says we struggle in is writing. And so she said before it was math, and then Simple Solutions kind of kicked in. So it's helping with the scores. And so we were looking at the writing, and she's like, well, let's like target writing to see how we can do it. It's already the end of the school year, so things that maybe for next year, most of us are coming back, most of us. And so I just wanted kind of like for this meeting for us to like bounce ideas of how we implement writing in the classroom. Like, do we integrate it into the other subjects, or is like a writing time? So I was gonna start off with what I do in my classroom just to like get ideas, and then I made some copies of some readings response that you can use it for. And I gave everybody a copy. It's a section for fiction and nonfiction. And so I was telling her that I just kind of put it on the Elmo, and I tell the kids what prompt I'm going to use, and it's real quick, and I just kind of, whatever I pick and choose. And like last week we worked on informational text, and so we worked on the graphic features and stuff like that. So one of the prompts talks about graphic features, so I let them know before. And then how they respond to this, I didn't make booklets, just real quick. I give them a sheet of paper, they put their name, and then they put the date, and then I try to do it 2 or 3 times a week, and then they just put the date, and then they answer. And then on Friday I collect these, and I kind of just read over the response and stuff. So it's really neat. The kids really like it because they're sharing ideas and stuff like that, and it makes them think about the story, because I let them know the question like before, like we even read, so they'll know what it is they're looking for. And then the other things that Ms. Ravrusha asked me about was like the writing curriculum. I don't know if they bought it for everybody. I know they bought it for the little ones, and so I did it last year, and I'm gonna be honest, like I haven't done it this year because it's super slow. So if you've never done writer's workshop and you want to learn, this is like a good book, because it starts from like the beginning, how to hand out the pencils, how to set up the journals and stuff. So I mean, kind of like if you're already familiar with it, you're gonna get bored. The kids are gonna get bored because it goes like super slow. But it's a good, oh, and then this is the writer. It's a good book to all the writing strategies and stuff. And then this one is for like the mechanics of it. Like it does sentence structure, periods, like for them, just the structure of a sentence, like grammar and stuff. So they practice. And the only thing with this, you have to print out. They have workbooks, but the workbooks for the kids are like really short. And then the additional practices are in the, you just print them out. So the kids kind of this, and then some of these are like over the kid's head, like they're like really above. So I did this last year, but I didn't really see like too much like improvement. Like as a teacher, right, I was able just to like implement different stuff. So I kind of use it as a guide, and then I had them from the lessons. So just to remind, if you want to choose it, if you never set up writer's workshop, like this is like a good for somebody that hasn't like set up writer's workshop. The other thing that I do to help with the mechanics is I get these little composition books. And these are free worksheets from Super Teacher Worksheets, and they're just to correct sentences, like the language, the mechanics, spelling. I love it. So on church days or on Mondays that they haven't done the Simple Solutions, we work on this, and then I just give them one a day, and then they write it in their little journal. So they already know on Mondays. So they just come in, they put the date, they fix the sentence, and then we just do it on the board. So they're practicing mechanics, and they're practicing like recognizing what a sentence is, what a sentence shouldn't be. And so this they really enjoy. The other thing that I do in my class is we do writer's workshop. We do writer's workshop faithfully. To me, like I love writing, and I see like the growth. And so we do this every day. So I set this up. They get this at the beginning of the year, and in the beginning we build things like they always say, I don't know what to write about. So at the beginning of the year we start with the simple things like write from the heart. So they write things that are interested. So if they ever like stepped on an idea, they go back to their heart and they're like, oh, I'm gonna write about that. So I get all this, and then like just like the words that I know that they're gonna use, they get this all at the beginning of the year, and we build these together, so they're all excited because they get the plastic sheets, and then the writer's checklist for us, you know, the finger spaces, and then every day we write. They write about whatever they want. This week or last week we were doing procedural text, so they had how to make a sandwich. So for our class, they're still like working on it. They get those sheets and they have to glue them in order, and then they have to put this into a story, and they have to use the procedural words, and they have to tell me like first, next. And so we did that all week, and they liked it because, you know, it was things for them, how to build a pizza, how to build s'mores and stuff. So for me, like we do writing like every day. So I don't know like if it continues on or if it kind of like stops. So like Miss Ravrusha and I were talking like just to bounce ideas off of each other on like how we can get it going. I mean, especially for next year, just to improve the scores. I was looking at the scores, and I don't think they're that bad. And so, I mean, you see the growth. I mean, and I mean, but she thought that that's something that we could work on, and I said, okay. She asked me to make that a focus, and so we're just kind of working on that. So those are like my ideas on writer's workshop. And I kind of just wanted to go around because I'm glad that all of you are here. We're gonna have the bigger kids and then the upper grades and lower kids to kind of like help each other, and that's gonna help. I mean, get ideas, because I wouldn't know what to do with sixth grade, to be honest. Like I'm not. I've always said above third grade I wouldn't do. So it scares me, and I'm sure like the older teachers were like, oh, little grades. So I mean, whoever wants to start off and kind of what you do.
Okay. So at the beginning of the year, I'll use that writers. Yes, because it's a good start.
Yes,
it's a good start, and I like it because it has books to read to the kids. Like, we'll start off with the true story of the three little pigs, and instead of the prince and the frog and the prince, so it turns things around, and it's because it helps them see things in a different perspective, for one, and it gets them started, and like you, they all, even in the fifth grade, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write about. So we read those books and we hit certain targets, but then at the end, before we close shop or anything, there's a section in their journal, because we have a writing journal, and you write ideas. Okay, what would you write about? What story would you turn around, instead of so they start writing ideas, and then they have like a not biographies, what kind of what do you call them, narratives? Personal narratives, right? And you read those, and they're like, oh, and so they start, I give them ideas, write down ideas about what you would write about. Like, what do you have at home that if you picked it up, you could write a whole story about, like a doll or a medal, or, so they write down their ideas, and then we go from there. That's the beginning, and we go over the writing process, the pre-writing, the brainstorming, and all that good stuff, sometimes, and then we, when we write our first true essay, and we do quick writes in the mornings and stuff, or during reading. Right now I'm reading Holes, the book, and before we read a section of chapters, they have a quick write before the chapters. So it's a prompt, and I give them a certain time. I put music on. I call it writing music. It's classical music, and they write, and I just let them write until I turn it off, and then and then they start getting into their stories, right? Like, oh no, don't tell me the story. Read what you wrote, because they have a habit of writing, then they can write, right? But then when they go back to read it, or you read it, you're like, whoa. So I always tell them, please read it to me, or let me read it to you and tell me if it sounds. So when they're reading it to me, they'll start reading it, they'll go, oh. And so I'll say, see, start reading what you write. That practices those quick writes. So also I used, Terry Garcia was here, right? She's a wonderful, exquisite writing teacher, right? So she would share with me a lot of this stuff, and she had her own. I mean, I really think she could write a book. You could get her over here, yes, right. So she gave me a lot of her stuff, and I to this day use it because it's no fail. She gives the kids the steps. Let's say a compare and contrast essay. She has it for all the types of writing. Now, do I have them all? I don't know, but I know I have this one. That's why I was looking for it. So she writes the steps on writing an essay, which is the writing formula, the analyze the prompt, pre-writing, rough draft, proofread, revise, edit, and publish in final copy. And then after she introduces that, she introduces the prompt. I don't know where I did the prompt. And then she even has a timeline, day 1, day 2, day 3 of what to do. Now, I don't stick to it to a T, but it's a really good guide. And then the essay parts, the introduction, body, conclusion. And she'll say, like, day 1, read and analyze the prompt, right? Take notes, write down ideas, right? And then it's review the prompt, and then pre-write, brainstorm, okay? And then it'll say, the next day, write the first paragraph. And of course, she gives them samples of paragraphs. And sometimes, even then, I need help. So me and Sylvia will get together and find these, what do you call these?
Graphic organizers.
Graphic organizers, stuff that help you guide. So they're like, how do we put this together? And we know what we want to say, but how do we put it together? So we have these little graphic organizers and stuff that help us put it together, so it's one paragraph one day, one paragraph, and it breaks it down by paragraph, and then by the time you're done, they're rough drafting, and then we just revise and edit, yeah, and then we publish. So and I like it. I like following her because it gives me the days. It tells me what to do.
It's easier when there's steps, right? When you're
Oh yeah, especially when you're like me, you know, and I'm like, I just jump into it, and then when I'm done, I'm like, oh, that's not what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
So this way, it sets it down for you. So I use a lot of that for writing, pretty much. And at the beginning,
this has got the
Yes.
steps like that.
And then and for editing and stuff, I also do it's called a daily order of language as a warm up, once or twice a week, and they have to correct the sentence. And I also ask them, oh my goodness, I tell them to do, it's 2 sentences, and I'll ask them to write one in print in their neatest handwriting, so it's also my handwriting grade, right?
Yeah.
And then I tell them to do one in cursive, so they won't lose that. And they're like, you know, but you know, they're getting used to it, and they like to see which one's better. So yeah, I do the DOL for that, and I use that for grammar along with HMH. Yeah, HMH, and that for the grammar, because again, that's a little over their heads. You kind of pre-teach a little bit, and then you can do the book for that, for the grammar and all that good stuff. Yeah. That's basically what I use. Yeah.
Well, yeah, start off with that, and then we start off by just writing good paragraphs. So I have different prompts, different styles of writing, different prompts. So then they get a prompt, and then they write a good paragraph, so they know what a good paragraph should look like. So they're practicing that, and they have to go and edit, revise it, all the stuff. And then we do use these together. So this is for argumentative. We're getting ready to write an argumentative essay, so we'll use this, and it guides them through it. Do a lot of the same things that Sandra does, the grammar things from there, and then I pull some stuff, like the one that you had earlier. They have one for the upper grades, and I'll use some of that too. Not the journal. Well, I'll do free writes. So like right now we're
they're in all levels. So like the A, B's.
Well, I had to use 5th grade because they were 6th, but that's fine. And then we do free writes also. So we were reading the novel, The Giver. And so, but we read the chapters first, so they get an idea of what they're talking about, because then it's their reflection on a particular chapter or a particular theme that's running through the chapter. So then they'll write their response, and so sometimes it asks them to write a response to what they read, and then sometimes it's like, what do you think? So how would this affect you living in that utopian world? Which is dystopian, but so that's what we do for writing.
I just have a question. Do you think I don't do so much of like those prompts? Do you think like as lower grades would it help the upper grades to like maybe for us to get together and just give like instead of, because us is like mainly responding to like prompts and stuff. I mean to like stories. Would it help the upper grades if we started like maybe at a younger grade just like a random prompt and have a write? Because what I started doing is like I just get like a random picture, and I put the picture and I'm like write about the picture, and I don't give it could be about anything, but it's just about the picture. Do you think that maybe?
No, that's pretty good, because that also helps with like reading, with inferencing, you know, because they don't know what the picture is or what they're saying, and then they have to infer, and they have their own thoughts, right? And it's cool, and just say, why do you think that? You know, what's going on, and why do you think that? And then they have to justify, because the girl's got an angry face. And that's not only good for writing, it's very good for reading too. So yeah, no, that's great.
I mean, just started off with the pictures.
Yeah.
It's just, it's the set that I bought off from TBT, and it was for writing, but it says for the younger kids, it gave them a picture, and it's just random pictures. There's even one that we did today. It was just a dog running in the grass and a ball in his mouth. And then all the kids came up with a different story and stuff, so it was like really neat.
That's really that's totally, and I still do that in 5th grade, especially when we're doing inferencing with reading. So we do incorporate reading and writing, maybe some social studies and writing, math, maybe just writing steps, maybe, but not so much.
We're working on the process.
But we try to incorporate in the different subjects.
So that's pretty much, we kind of basically do the same things. It's just, you know,
That's
what's
like me and
experience.
Veronica. Like we like always bouncing out. I mean because it's just like to help. I'm gonna get her kids or whatever. Yeah, that's good. Let's talk about.
We've used the is it Bean or
Yeah, Being a Writer.
Being a Writer at the beginning too, and the stories that came with it, and then the prompts were really helpful, and to get the kids to explore kind of their personal narrative really helped them get them started. We kind of did fall behind in between those months to now, the beginning of the year to now, and we're struggling with summaries. And so it's like they can tell you everything that happened, but it's like they want to tell you the whole story.
Yeah.
And so getting them to get the summary down using different graphic organizers and sorts like that has helped them a lot. And now they've come a long way. But what I started to use and what I've used in the past is Gretchen Barnaby's Trail of Breadcrumbs. And the writing techniques is that it breaks everything down. And so what I really liked about it when I taught 6th and 7th grade was the kernel essay, and it's 5 sentences. And so it's 5 sentences and you write an essay. So for your non-motivated students, they're like, oh my gosh, I just wrote an essay, and it has a beginning, middle, end, it has everything. And so the kernel essay is structured. It's you can use it in a journal, and so we have a heart map, and it's kind of similar to the things that you used. They can also do an illustration, but the kernel essay has 5 boxes, and so you use that as the graphic organizer. And so you organize at the beginning. You have your ideas here. You draft your idea, then get your ideas. You start a draft, and you can also do it in response to reading. So there's different things that go in those boxes. What happened first? What happened next? What happened last? Or what did you hear? What did you see? What happened in this part of the story? So there's tons of different ways that you can use it. And then after they write those 5 sentences later to turn into a bigger essay, you start adding to those specific sentences. So sentence 1 ends up being a paragraph. Sentence 2 ends up being another paragraph. And I at the beginning they didn't really understand what they were doing. Like, why do I have to write the boxes? What goes in the boxes?
Yeah.
I have to write the box exactly like that? I'm like, well, yeah, that's part of the process. It's like, okay. And so now it went from them cramming everything into a box, and I'm like, no, that's not how it goes, to writing, using the graphic organizer appropriately, and then they have their rough draft, just writing each sentence, and then it becomes into an essay. And so they've come a long way with that, and I think they're really grasping the concept of it. And then for grammar and mechanics, checking it, we do, I guess it's through HMH also. Follow that program, and that they're pretty good on. Also with Freckle, I assign them things on there, and so we're going. It was an area though that Ms. Fabricia was concerned about, and so we are trying to hit heavy on that. We're doing pieces in our reading response, and then we're having at least one writing prompt a week that I'm telling them to write something. So the last one we did, and we also integrated into religion. So they did a kernel essay with their Lenten promise, and then they finished it with something to put on their bulletin board. So.
I hadn't even thought about integrated writing with religion. Like, it's just
Oh yeah.
so we can do that. Like, that's good. It's an idea.
It's funny how we were all like, we started with that,
That-
but then
You have to step in the
it does go kind of slow, and then in depth.
It's super lengthy.
Yeah, it is.
I think when I was doing it was like taking 2 weeks to complete.
Yeah.
And it's like the same thing.
Mhm.
Makes you go back to it over and over, and even the kids get bored with it.
Yeah.
But I like it as a start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to
Beginning
start.
of the year kind of thing, and then
And you just kind of do your own thing.
venture.
And then you adjust, right? Everybody has to adjust because kids are all different.
It's me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. I asked her to be here. She's like, do I have to go for K3? But she's like, they have a Busy Bee journal.
We have all sorts of things.
And so I was like, okay, let's share.
Of course, we started the year with our morning message, and they are helping with the message as the year goes on. Now they're counting the words and sentences. They're spelling some of the days of the week and doing things like that because we've been through it every single day. So that's where they've grown there. We use word webs when we're doing units. We use right around the room. with our words around, and even at this little, believe it or not, they can do it. We have our Busy Bee folder that goes once a month home with them when it's their snack day. And so we've been doing that for years and years, and it's ended up being the best thing because our guys, their beginning writing is drawing.
Yeah.
And some of them come in and they can't draw a circle, they can't draw anything. And so then they start where they even start labeling and things, labeling people and things as the year goes on. So we start from August when they can barely do anything until we have details and color. So it's pretty cool. I love to do stories. I'm a major story person. So we'll read a story and then they'll illustrate their story, and that also shows the comprehension of the story. It's just such a deeper. This one was already in November. It was called The Thirsty Moose. That's her moose for somebody that couldn't draw when they came in. And so it's just amazing how fast that it goes from there. We did Grouchy Ladybug this week. So there's the 2 ladybugs. And some of them will start to label, some will not.
You can see their faces.
You can see the face, the sad and the happy. And their little leaf is there and things. So some are just really cute. And then we did Hello Little Ant, or Hey Little Ant, which is hilarious because they'll come in and say, I can't draw, I can't do that, I can't do this. Well, lots of times it's directed drawing, or I'll get up there and I'll do on the board and I'll say, well, I don't draw very well, but I'm going to try because I can do hard things. So here's the shoe and there's the ant. And it's like Kinsley would save the ant. And so they're dictating. And the same thing with their Busy Bee stories. They're dictating the stories to the parents. The parents are writing them down. Well, they're starting to fill in. The little boy that turned his in today, I couldn't find it. Miss B might have already put it in his folder. But he did, they did all this series of things. Well, he drew all the pictures of everything that they did, and then his mom helped him with the words. Well, down at the bottom, there's a big letter B and a big letter V, and then there's a heart, and inside it there's an L. And so he said, you know what that means, right? And I said, tell me what about your story. And he said, well, that means I love Miss Bunch and Miss V. And so they are experimenting with putting their words together. That's what I said. We do a lot of sharing on the board. The word webs help a lot because they're associating the words with written word. They're associating the pictures with written word. And so that's where we have to start. But it works. It works.
It's beginning writing, right? Like the drawing. That's where it starts.
Yeah, and I love books. And so getting them to draw something that they took from the story showed me they listened, showed they got the main characters, because we talk about main character, the setting, what happened at the beginning, what happened at the end. We ask the higher level questions through the story. And we'll do a little bit, we'll stop, and we'll talk about what we just read, and then we'll go and we'll finish. But we do all of that, but that's the process of learning how to write. So
I also start with being a writer, but like you said, it's very slow. I like to make my own little, like how y'all have your little prompts, but I like to make my own little writing pages with them. So at the beginning, one of the beginning ones is an I can one. I think I printed it out. It starts out with I can. So we talk about all the things we can do. I can ride a bike, I can fly a kite, I can jump rope, I can run, I can dance, I can sing. Make a big word bubble. And or a big like a word web.
Yeah.
And then with all the ideas, they're just yelling ideas at me, and I'm just writing them down there on the board. And then they have to go. So our first step in writing is we draw our pic. Well, we come up with an idea of whatever it is. So if it's I can, you know, I model. I do a lot of modeling before we even get to the independent part.
Yeah.
I probably spend 2 days modeling, and then they take it from there. After they come up with their idea of what they can do, they go draw their picture. And then after they draw the picture, they have to label it. At the very beginning, we're just finishing all of our sounds and getting through alphabet boot camp. So for the most part, they're able to start with the first letter of the picture. So, you know, G for grass and S for sky and S for sun. Some of them by then are trying to sound out more words in their picture, but we start very simple with just the first letter. And then there's sentences that come up at the bottom. Lots of times they're missing pieces, and so I say, okay, so they'll just put kite. I'm like, okay, I can kite. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. What can I add to that to make it make sense? And I'll sit there with them. At the beginning, even up to now, a lot of the kids still need one-on-one sitting with them. Okay, don't forget your finger spaces, which reminds me I have my little finger space guys that helps them, helps remind them. So ours is extremely basic at the beginning. I'm trying to just get them to focus on not being afraid to try to spell something. And that's when our secret stories come in, which I have them all around the room. But then we also have like these little placemats too.
Yeah.
I prefer the ones up on the wall because they're used to seeing the color.
Yeah.
So they know the
Where to find it.
EY, you know, they think they're so cool, they know that's on a pink one. So when they look at this, it takes them longer.
Yeah.
Versus just like looking at the wall and they're like, oh, it's that one. The secret stories have helped so much when it comes to our phonics and then being able to sound things out by themselves independently. It was about, a month ago you came in, and I can't remember exactly what the story was, but I can't remember what it was.
Is it religion?
No. Oh, it wasn't the Adam and Eve.
No, it was.
I can't remember what it was, but they're so proud to show her that they had basically spelled the entire thing by themselves, and phonetically it was all spelled correctly.
It was there.
And so that's my rule is there's no wrong way to spell something in kindergarten. I want to make sure that they're able to hear the sounds and put them on paper. And so starting at the beginning in kindergarten, I like to do math. It's math, but didn't know the TH digraph yet. And this is all from the same student. I can climb a tree, so that's pretty good for, I think that was in September. And it's, of course, like I said, it's very basic. Some of us sometimes are working on our finger spacing a little more. Over Thanksgiving break, I went to see my horse, and so the details in the drawing start showing up a lot too. And then also some of the prompts, they come straight from our HMH depending on the story. So once I'm done kind of with the being a writer, I focus more on whatever our story is that week in HMH, and then they write about it. Like this week, last week we did an opinion writing, we're gonna do another one this week with spaghetti, is it spaghetti for hair or something? I can't remember what the story's called. On 4th of July, I like to pop fireworks.
That's even like good for like the beginning, like the way they're decoding the sound and stuff, because it's like,
This one was all about colors, and so the gray tornado is scary. So then we started talking about, I think the one was about shapes, one was about colors. Well, then you go into adding feelings into it, and so that was the good one on that one. And then we did Hey Little Ant too. Copy that.
No, I was doing Hey Little Ant first.
So I have the kind of like the sentence. Yeah. And then they have to go in. They should or should not step on the ant, and then. He said, I think the boy should not squish the ant because the ant has to feed his family. And of course, there's going to be things like the double E and some of their sight words that, you know, that have hard sounds that they miss.
And in our level, there's also Tara West does she does Firsties, Besties, and she does, anyway, she has an excellent science of writing program in her stuff. Yeah. It's amazing. It's really, because it's very differentiated. It's from little bitty up. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about going to class. The other day I went to observe her class, and I don't know, before in Charlotte, kindergarten, I was, kindergarten was like my grade. And I went in there and I told them, oh my God, I think I'm going to walk in. Like, I'm thinking, I think I'm going to go back to kindergarten just because the way they were doing the sounds and the Conan boxes. And man, they were like so, like, I mean, she was like, watch this. And I was like, the girl that I observed, right, she did like so good. And for them to be able to like use like each box to pair the sounds together. And I went home.
It's a lot of modeling.
I know. And I told
modeling.
her, man, I think I'm in this wrong grade. Like I've told everybody, like kindergarten was like, oh, that's my baby. I loved it. When I did it, I was like, oh, I'd go back. And he's like, really, you're gonna go backwards? I was like, I know, but it's just like, cause I think in that like that grade, you see like the growth, right? You see at the beginning.
That's the deal. That's the deal.
I have some that come because some of them are not coming from K4.
Yeah.
Some of them are blank slates, and they're recognizing like 60 sight words already. and they're able to sound out most, CVC. Even we're going into CVCE words this week, and I had one sit next to me today that was literally, there was nothing when we came in, and she spelled home independently on her own without
I think
any of
that's
my
the way
help.
where you see the
And I
most
was just
growth.
like, wow,
growth.
it
Like,
was-
And that's what's
Yeah.
cool.
with the young.
Seeing when they start,
Mhm.
they start in my class, they don't even know their letters. They don't know letters, they don't know sounds, they don't know doobly squat. And it's like they can't use scissors, they can't hold their crayon, they can't hold a pencil, nothing. And so then all of a sudden you see them in kindergarten and they're writing their stories. And it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, seriously, some days she's brought somebody in and I have started boo-hooing because we've struggled with just getting things in,
Getting
you
them to
know.
recognize their names.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It was nice because I saw that you had the writing center and stuff like that.
And that's what I was gonna show. So we use this more in my first couple years, for writing, and so I still have all of these in there. But now with the secret stories, it's helped so much that I'm not saying they don't need these, but it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of like a different route to take. But
Because they
these
get
are
to us,
very
they still
useful.
like even she's told me like they still like they look for the wall for the sounds. It's just something that they. It's easier for them to like just look up and get, especially with us that are younger. They're still, but in second grade they don't really show that. I mean they do show growth, but not like.
No,
Oh,
it's not
no,
leaps
no,
and bounds.
yeah.
Exactly.
My sixth grade was like that.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
I know. Fifth grade is like
Did I make a difference?
growth.
Yeah.
Backwards.
Did I make a
Backwards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're roller coaster rides.
Okay. Well, I guess I won't be like, if I don't say I started with that, then I don't feel good.
Hey, I didn't start with that.
No, I did use that for, like, I guess more at the beginning. It did have for us, like a lot of sentence stems.
Yeah.
So we would read a story about somebody that was helpful, and so it would be like, I helped by, and then they would finish it off. So it had that for them at the beginning. We do use a little bit more. This was the book that we got this year, which was a little bit thinner than last year's edition for some reason. And I think it was kind of different too, right?
Yeah, it was a different.
So this one's more like on kind of the grammar, the capitalization, and so we do these usually together. It goes with a lesson in the book, but I kind of just skip around depending like what our HMH is covering. So whether it's complete sentences, capitalization. I think we just there was one that we did stretching sentences, which helped like that they really like that because we would start off with something like I can whatever, and then they'd where do you do it, how do you do it, who like, so they like that. So we use this a little bit more than the actual whole thing, but from that. The other thing that we do is, so when we have our stations each week, we have when they do their independent stations, I always put in some kind of writing in it. So either they have a writing notebook which they use and they think it's more of a drawing thing, but whatever. So I was like, you can draw an illustration, but you have to write a story about it first. So they want to just write something and then drop it. I was like, no, you have to make a story that goes with the picture. And then of course one of them thought it was like a comic book. So she did like one big picture. This is like, but I was impressed because she did it kind of like a graphic novel, like with the speech bubbles. But she took a page for each one. But like I guess we had just done one of the Mo Willems, like the Elephant and Piggy books. So it's all like speech bubbles. So she did like each page was a scene of them talking, which I was like, okay, I guess that works. So
dialogue right
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
So we'll do some kind of writing in our station. So they'll either do writing notebook. Then we do something I don't even know. I made it called power sentences because in our HMH we have something called power words, which is usually the vocabulary words for that. So I called it power sentences. So each time that they have this in the station, they have to write sentences either using the vocabulary words that we're doing for that week, our high frequency words for that week, or our spelling words for that week. And so they have like a little checklist about what each sentence should have, like the sentence structure, and they did pretty good. Like we did some this week. One of them, I might have my first baseball game this week. Capitalization, period, like whatever. And then I brought this one because this is one of my strugglers, but besides spelling, this is the only thing that I really had to correct. And so we have it where they have a writing helper, which is similar to yours there, and it has a list of our high frequency words from first grade. It has like phonic sounds, like if you get stuck on a sound, and so that helps them too. And so one of her, like, so besides spelling, I went to church for Stations of the Cross. So I was like, oh, that's cute. Like, so this week, because we're kind of reviewing for Iowa, I was like, you don't have any words to go by. It's your own sentences. So you make 5 sentences, and I tell them has to have 5 or more words, and so that way they can, like, at least challenge them to make it. Because if not, it'd be like, I can whatever.
Yeah.
And one of them put, and I was like, we can't do that. I love my mom so, because to fill both lines so so much. I was like, no, one. So yeah, so we do that. We also have, we do have the small little notebooks like that, and so we have morning work each day for the week. So Thursdays is our, like, revise and edit day. So I put some sentences up on the board, and I even go to the length of telling them, I don't know if yours has that, I'll tell them how many mistakes are in this one. So, like,
Yeah,
this
it
one
tells
says
them,
how many
words
words
you have to look
yeah,
for.
so this one, I was like, this one has 3. It could be spelling, it could be punctuation. So we do those on Thursdays. And then one of our CGs is actually their handwriting. So handwriting day is on Mondays, and we have those revision handwriting books. So every Monday we do a handwriting page. And then that's pretty much it. Towards the end, we'll start more together, putting their, like, sentences together to put stories together, and we do that more as a group, as like a whole group. Like, we'll come up with ideas together, I'll model it, we write it together, like, you copy me, so they can at least see what it's supposed to look like, which I think gets them ready, like, to transition into second grade where they do more writing there. But yeah, other than that, they are pretty good with I brought their writing scores, and so for the first 2 things that we did on a record of progress, everybody improved, which I was happy with. So we're doing pretty good there, I think.
I was just gonna ask something. Like, on the CGs, everybody has, like, the types of forms of writing that we're supposed to be teaching. Like, everybody's, like, I know that, I mean, everybody's, like, aware. I think ours is, like, 4 of the, ours is, like, I don't think it's argumentative, it's, like, persuasive.
Yeah.
Persuasive.
See, for us it's
Kurt's argumentative.
argumentative,
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
the same
It's
thing,
the
but they
same,
call
yeah.
it argumentative. They want, like, more, maybe, facts or, like,
Yeah.
More
quotes.
research that
Yes,
you can back
yes.
up what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what makes it a
So,
little
like, in the,
different.
ours is what, personal narrative,
Mine has
persuasive, and then, like, how to write a letter. You have to know how to write a
No,
letter.
ours isn't, what is persuasive,
Persuasive,
personal narrative.
informational.
informational, I count the
mine's
same
ours is,
thing, that's their information.
literary text, like a personal narrative or poetry, and then informational text, including procedural, persuasive, persuasive, and thank you letters.
Yeah,
or-
correspondence
yeah.
letters or something
Yeah.
like that. Correspondence.
Just remember the.
So yeah, that's, I mean, just to make sure, like, when we were talking about Ms. just to make sure that everybody was, like, hitting it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just brought a sticky pad, and it's just something, I don't know, if a way that we can implement writing, and it's just don't put your name on it. Just something that maybe you want to, like, a way that you learn, a way that you can try a different way to do writing for next year. Like, you know, I know one thing that I learned, and in one of the classes I was seeing, we do Zoom meetings with the people, and that she did, and she gets a lot of writing, and I mean, of course, right, with, like, the social studies, like our social studies, they do the same thing in the weeklies, and she was like, there's nothing, and the kids get bored, and so she just has them write about something, and there's something they learn, and she goes, then I get a writing, and they're learning about more social studies, and so I was like, oh, that's something that I could get even more grades for social studies. So just an idea, or something that you learn, maybe that you want to try next year, like to implement or put into, you know, if it's writer's workshop, just anything that you think, whatever you want. So, and then I think that after that, then we're gonna meet again, but I'm gonna give everybody, I think everybody has copies of the writing scores. We're just gonna go over it next time,
Okay.
just to see. We'll just pass it out. And please take food before we leave. Pack
Pretty
it
sure.
up. Oh, and then I have these, I made everybody a copy. I mean, y'all don't have to use them, but I thought just the sentence stems, because I always give them to the kids. There's a nonfiction set and a fiction set. So I always look at the stories I'm gonna be reading, and like HMH is good about telling you that this week we're gonna be working on informational text. So then I just kind of focus on that. So this is just like writing prompts that, and these will even work with like the soul studies. Like you can really use them for anything. So you don't have to use it, but it's just something to share. But I love these. These help my kids. It makes them focus because then when they're reading, they're like reading like
To
learn.
find something out.
Yeah, to find something out. Because if not, they just want to read and read and
Yeah.
for whatever. And so this makes them more. So I'll put one in Michelle. And then Michelle, she gave me. She said that she really doesn't do writing all that much. She's like trying to kind of been like something that she struggles with, but that she's gonna try to do it more towards the end of the year. So.
I mean, even at our little grade, we do several stories of the gingerbread boy, and so they can tell the difference and they'll contrast. I mean, we can see, well, what was different in this one, what was the same in this one. Gingerbread Man and Little Red Riding Hood and the Three Little Pigs.
Yeah.
We have several different versions.
That's to say, this being writer, the books they give them the opposite version, and so with that we're able to compare and contrast. Like for they're used to the fairy tale, like the little three little bears, and the HMH is really good about that because in the HMH, I don't know if you have, it's with ours instead of three little bears, it's the three little dinosaurs, and so they're able to compare and contrast. Even the HMH they have Cinderella story, but in three different with cultural backgrounds.
Yeah.
And so it's really neat. So we're able to compare and
Like
contrast.
ours are Little Red Riding Hood, and it was like it has the, I guess like the Spanish, like she's not taking her grandma, she's taking her abuela, not cookies but tortillas, and so the kids read it and I guess they're like
I
more.
don't think we have any of those.
And you don't have to put your name. I'm just gonna put these. So I'm gonna do these. I'm just gonna stick them on there, and I'm just gonna scan them in and stuff. So thank you. I don't know if you has anybody. That's it for me.
Did you win? You do win? You do win. I don't know what else are we doing with them?
You're kind
We
of
use
set.
puppets. We act out the stories. We use puppets. We make up songs and